bad. Oh, you might notice that's cute. Two people. Okay, you and man.
Am I on?
You are.
Okay.
What were you doing in Savannah?
Being warm.
Well, there is that. You have family down there?
Sorry?
You have family down there?
No, we went with some friends for a winter getaway.
Ah, okay.
So we've done it before. We've gone to Mexico a couple of times to
Uh-huh.
Cartagena, so uh this was this year's adventure.
Morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, Bill. How are you guys?
Recovering.
Yeah. I hope your losses weren't too much.
Hope what?
I said, I hope your losses weren't too much from the whole internet problem.
Oh, well, so far we're out about $200,
Well, that's not terrible, all things considered.
which actually the bank is attempting to recover.
Oh, good. That'd be great.
Um, but having to have my computer completely
Uh,
stripped and then reset up
yikes.
has
Yeah.
been extremely painful.
Mm.
Actually, I ended up canceling a whole week's worth of classes because I just
Wow.
couldn't get it all together. I'm
All
not
right.
as quick as I used to be, Jeff.
Don't feel bad, David. None of us are. Don't feel bad. I
but
think that every day.
but fortunately, my friend Andrew, who is sort of my computer guy, helped me, and
Good.
I don't know, but we're back more or
We're here.
less.
Yeah, we're here, so that's good.
So, how are you feeling this morning, Bill?
Uh, weary.
Weary. Oh, okay. You're not supposed to come back from a vacation weary.
I know, but a day of travel always takes a little bit out of me.
No
Uh,
kidding. No
Where were you
kidding.
traveling from, Bill?
we some friends and my wife and I were down in Savannah for a few days.
Oh,
So down your way.
yeah, not too far.
Okay.
The worst part of it was I didn't almost do anything except practice breathing. So
Well, I'm glad you did that.
yeah.
Okay. Um, I might mention that I have lost in that whole thing the original sound setting, and I've not been able to find it back. So
Uh,
I have no idea what um, the Ting Shaw will sound like. Probably
Wow.
not like itself.
Were you able to hear that, Bill?
no.
I didn't either.
No.
It's
I'll
just,
have to I'll have to research that with
yeah.
Zoom and see what they've done because it isn't where it used to be.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
anyway, so questions. Um,
Maybe you can just take a minute or two on that the three Dantians, I read through the pages that you sent me. It actually made things a little less clear for me, but maybe that's good. The upper Dantian, I was talking about it being the brain, and I don't know how literal that was being versus where we've talked about where it's actually located. Can you just address that briefly, like what it was talking about, and where the actual, obviously I know where the lower Dantian is, but can you say again where specifically the middle and upper are, physically speaking?
Sure. So the upper dantian is actually is located in the middle of the brain.
Okay.
Its access point is through the third eye, and through Bai Hui at the top of the head.
Right.
And there are actually 40 centers, I understand. I cannot personally verify that, but I've
Right.
been taught that there are 40 energy centers in the brain. But the center, I mean, if we're trying to think of the center of the upper dantian, would be in the middle of the brain, which I presume is one of the 40
Right.
energy centers there. The eyes are also access points, which is why, particularly in meditation, we spend some time trying to learn to relax and allow access through the eyes for the energy. The middle dantian, actually, we until we get really specific, we sort of just say, well, it's at the base of the sternum. Well, that's not actually accurate. It is actually behind the sternum and slightly above the base of the sternum. And the middle dantian can be pretty confusing to talk about, because really this is the center of what the Chinese call the heart mind, the Xiang. And it involves a relationship to both the heart and the mind. And it is probably the most difficult, actually, of the three to feel the access to. At least that's certainly been my experience.
Right.
It is actually extremely important, because ultimately the heart mind, the Xiang, is the point of origination of virtually everything beyond the unconscious mind.
Right.
So it's actually at the deepest level in our unawareness, in our subconscious, if you will. Yeah. That probably just is more confusing.
Yeah, no, that actually that helped, and I kind of understood the part where it was saying that the meeting of the upper and middle dantians are kind of the gateway to everything else, universally speaking, that is beyond our normal understanding. That part I kind of understood.
Good.
And it made sense to me, but it just the actual location, I hadn't really, until I read this, I hadn't heard us ever talk about the dantian actually being in the brain. So that was new to me, and I needed some better understanding of that, how literal that was, which I guess is pretty literal versus what I had thought before.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay. Anything for you, Bill?
No, not really.
Nothing new in all of
Nothing new.
that. Ooh, we have a dog joining the class.
Yeah. He was dancing around in or she was dancing around in the background before.
Your dog doing all right?
Yeah, she's very well. Very
Oh,
good.
good.
Bambi, come over. I just don't want to put her outside because the pool guy is coming any minute, and I don't want to have to be freaked out when he
Oh,
gets here.
yeah. Okay, so because we don't seem to get to it, or I don't seem to get to it, I'm going to start with the spine stretch today.
Oh,
Ah,
okay. That'd be nice.
Yes, Bill, what was that? Um, so the Taoist spine stretch actually is an extremely important um, health, certainly health exercise. In China, it's considered to be one of the principal ways to address over 80% of back issues. Um, and I know I've probably already said this before, but it is one of the primary ways that I have addressed my back issues, and it has been extremely successful. When I initially developed back pain from my severe degenerative arthritis in the lower spine, I was in extreme pain. Um, I managed to get out of extreme pain and be pain free for, I think, close to 10 years. Um, I now have gone a step further and occasionally have a little bit of discomfort, but for the most part, I'm able to control it. And a lot of the result of that is the spine stretch.
And how often do you personally do the spine stretch, David, to help alleviate that?
Um, I would say probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
Um, the suggestion is that you should probably do it every other day if you have a back issue.
Right. Okay.
Um, you can do it more frequently. I might just say that you can safely do 3 repetitions at a time. You should not repeat those 3 repetitions for at least 4 hours. So it is possible to do it more than once a day if you have if you're at an extreme issue,
Right.
which I have done. Um, but generally, for maintenance, every other day is usually enough.
Okay.
I will send you. I have the chapter from Opening the Energy Gates of the Body, Bruce's book, copied, which I'll send to you um, as the notes from today, and it's
Okay.
quite detailed.
Okay.
Um, so there's no question that the spine stretch is a very valuable tool to have in your in your Qigong toolbox.
Yeah.
Uh, it also is preparatory training for being able to really do the C curve effectively
Mm.
uh, later when you get into using that in um, other qigong or in the form. Actually, the C curve is going on continuously like every other movement. It's extremely subtle in its movement in the form. Um, Bill's been working with it in Gods, so he probably has a little better understanding of that. Um, it is really important to be aware of, actually to do a little preparation for doing the spine stretch, particularly when you're just beginning with it. And I know both of you have done it before, so this is really more a review than starting from the very beginning. But I did want to remind you that it can be very helpful to do some time just lying on the floor with the knees up and really feeling your spine, and by lifting the knees slightly or bending the head up slightly, you can begin to really feel parts of the spine. And it gives you an opportunity to really not only begin to accurately feel the spine, which most of us don't really feel. We feel the back, we feel the back muscles, but one of the things we're trying to do in the spine stretch is to release the back muscles and let them go. And so lying down on the floor really allows you to begin to let go in a way that we may find more difficult to do standing up. The other one that's really helpful is to do a qua bend. And I think one of the things, I'm actually going to show you what I mean by this, because I'm not sure that I've particularly talked about it before, but it's not, I'm not talking about, I'm going to stay on this camera so you can see me a little better. I'm not talking about either the qua fold or the qua squat, where you are bending down in both cases, bending the knees in both cases, but focusing just on relaxing and opening the qua and allowing yourself to just bend at the qua, keeping the tailbone tucked and the back straight. And remembering to only really observe your 70% rule. But you're not sinking down with this. You're just bending at the qua. And so the purpose here, one of the purposes is that through the through the spine stretch and God's, we want to use the qua to guide the movement. So it is the qua that's causing you to bend forward and to straighten up. And you're not using muscles of the legs, you're not using muscles of the back. You're doing this entirely from the qua. And so that's kind of an important exercise, because that's key in the movement, basic movement of the spine stretch itself. Let me just say, if anybody has questions anywhere along the way, speak up.
Yeah.
So, do you remember doing those exercises, either one of you?
That I don't remember, no.
The qua bend?
Yeah.
No, except as you say, it is really the start of the spine stretch.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I will say, in the spine stretch itself, we are allowing ourselves to bend the knees and sink a little bit, but it's very small.
Yeah.
That's not a major part of the movement. It is simply whatever is necessary to allow the release of the whatever tension and tightness you can allow to let go of in your spine. So on that note, why don't the two of you stand up and just for a moment do a little bit of that cloth bend. Not a fold, not a squat, just a bend. And if you'll do it sideways to the camera, I can see a little better what you're doing. You really should both be here so that I can put my hands on you, but my arms are not long enough. Don't let your chin lift. Keep the back straight. And there are no awards for bending more. It's just what is 70% of your comfortable range. And straighten up. And so when we're actually doing the spine stretch, you remember that above the area where we're focusing, we're keeping the back and the neck straight. And so part of this exercise is really helping you be clear about that. Yeah. Okay, so any questions about that? That is a good exercise to do before you do the spine stretch, just to remind you, remind your body about that. So when you go into the stretch itself, initially when you begin, you're going to probably want to just focus on groups of vertebrae. Eventually, you should be able to feel individual vertebrae, but that may take whatever length of time it takes. Weeks, months, years, depends on you and your ability to feel. When you're doing the spine stretch, it's really important to get your mind really to extend through your body and to really feel what's going on, because you need to develop the awareness that you are releasing the tension, not only of the muscles, but also the nerves in whatever area you are focusing on. And actually, when you're beginning, it's really, it's good to do it in stages. So you focus on a specific group. We start with the back, the posterior side, and I might just mention, because this is something that Bill knows about, there are two huge ligaments called the longitudinal ligaments, one in the posterior of the spine and one anterior to the spine. And we're not particularly in this case focusing on those, but they certainly are involved with the action of the spine. And so simply as an anatomical element that you might be aware of, because it's something that you are trying to relax along with the muscles and the nerves as you're doing this. So you start by focusing on perhaps the um, 5 lumbar vertebrae and letting them relax, trying to feel the muscles in that area relax, eventually feeling the nerves are relaxing there. And then you want to allow that area to bend, but keep the spine and neck above it straight. So one of the things you're doing is developing a very specific and clear sensation of what your spine is doing. And as that you do that bend, your intention is that in the posterior part of your spine, that it's opening a little bit of space. And eventually you would hope that when you open the interior part, that you open a little bit of space there and maintaining the space you've opened on the posterior side. It's extremely small. And as a matter of fact, you may not get much, if any, movement initially. That can take time to develop. And then when you feel the release there, you feel that you've allowed that bend to be as complete as it can. At that point, you move up the spine to the next group of vertebrae. And really working 3, 4, 5 vertebrae at a time to begin with. So you may only have 4 or 5 groups that you're doing as you go up the spine to begin with. But eventually, as I said, your ideal is to develop an awareness of each vertebra and the space between each of them so that you can release it more specifically. When you get to the cervical area, it's really important to also release the arms and shoulders and upper back along with the cervical spine, because that allows that whole area to open up. And certainly the cervical area is extremely important. And one of the things I will say is that if you do that, you will feel a rush of energy into your hands and fingers as you open the cervical spine. And then the final stage is to release the plates of the skull. And I probably told you this before, but the first time I saw Bruce in person, I was, at the time he demonstrated this, I was standing 3 or 4 feet away from him, and he could move the plates of his skull at will. So it reminds us that the plates of the skull are not fixed in place. They are simply several bones joined by sutures, and they are capable of movement. And so you're looking for a release clear up into the plates of the skull, which are considered by the Chinese to be the end of the spine. So that's going up the back. because you're both not beginners, I will also say that it's very helpful if when you're going up the back, if you can allow your weight to move towards the chignon at the heel of the foot. And if you can twist as much as you can throughout your entire body outward as you do that. And then, of course, we're going to do the anterior side. And again, we work from the bottom to the top. And again, you're going to focus on groups of vertebra. And the anterior side is almost always more difficult for all of us when we begin, and most difficult from the middle on up to the top. Probably not true for absolutely everybody, but most of us. Basically, you're doing the same process as you go up the anterior side of the spine, except now you are releasing up instead of releasing down. And this is pointing to the fact that in the action of the spine, that the back, the posterior part of the spine and its structure and function is to assist in the bending of the spine, and the anterior to assist in the straightening of the spine. Basically, doing the anterior side is simply the same process, except that instead of keeping the back straight above the point at which you're working, you are making sure that you allow it to stay bent above the area that you're focusing on. And you, of course, arrive eventually at the straight spine instead of a curved spine. Questions at the moment?
It's all very simple.
Yes, it is very simple, not necessarily easy.
Well,
Although
David,
it gets easier. Yes, Jeff.
what is the proper way then to do the anterior side? Because on the posterior side, we're just opening and relaxing and letting things go. But to straighten up, we have to use some muscle somewhere. What is it that, what is our goal in trying to do this properly and straight?
So what's happening with the spine is the same goal as it was on the posterior side, because that's the purpose of learning to use the qua to bend and straighten.
What the purpose is stretching and
No, the purpose is not stretching.
opening.
The
I don't mean
purpose
stretching.
is releasing and opening, yes.
Yeah, I don't mean using muscles to stretch. I mean opening, wrong term, opening and allowing energy and everything else to flow better.
Right.
Which is why using, it seems, you know, we have to use some muscles to do it to straighten up. And I don't want to overdo the use of those muscles or use the wrong ones or do what I'm not supposed to do in trying to achieve that goal.
So interestingly enough, you don't need to use muscles to do this.
I thought you might say that. That's why I need some clarification on doing it properly.
It is simply going back to letting go. And I don't mean to be flippant about that. We're now, you know, this is a practice which is helping us develop the awareness that by releasing, we actually can energize and therefore be able to move without having to contract muscles to do so. Now, I'm not saying that initially you won't have to contract some muscles to do this, because probably it will take a fair amount of practice to arrive at a point where you can let go entirely of that. But it's a process.
Right.
So your purpose here is to focus on using the qua to move the spine, not to use the muscles of the spine to move the spine.
Right.
And
So using the quad to straighten back up and extending that movement through
yeah,
with as little use of muscles as possible in the spine area.
well, so that you can allow any tension or tightness or contraction or blocked energy to release, and therefore allow that movement to happen. Allow those spaces to open.
Right.
It's not, this is, I admit, this is perhaps doesn't feel entirely logical, but it works.
And this is different. Your explanation of it now is different than I remember from 10 years ago, which is the last time that I used this, learned this, practiced this. You know, I don't remember, all I remember of doing this whole exercise is that when we straightened up, I was using my muscles and straightening back up.
Yeah.
This seems like next level that I have not done in the past.
Yep.
So it will take a little bit of time for me to get used to it, but I want to be able to know what I'm working toward. And so if I do,
Sure.
if I know that, I think I can
Yeah.
get there.
I am sure I gave you the same handout then that I'll give you now,
Okay.
because I haven't changed what I'm using for
I
this.
have just forgotten this discussion because it's been so long. So maybe that
Well,
just makes
also, Jeff, um, I have 10 or more years experience with
right,
this than I had at that point.
right.
Um,
And we were using it in every class pretty much at that point too, from, you know, basic classes up to our more advanced classes.
yep. And I know a lot more about it now than I did then.
Yeah, that's clear. That's clear to me from hearing you talk about it now
It's
versus
like
that.
it's like I look back, I think at that same time, actually 20 years ago, I was teaching cloud hands and the swings and the spine stretch. And I didn't really completely understand then. I'm
Right,
not sure I completely understand now, but my knowledge has grown a great deal and my experience has grown a great deal.
right.
So don't hold on to what I taught before.
Yeah,
Um, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as complete, I'm sure, as I can give you now.
right. And that's why I'm trying to get clarity now. I mean, I don't remember a lot of specifics from then, which is why I wanted us to do this whole thing now anyways. And
Yeah.
I also didn't have back problems back then, so it was nice to do it. Now it's actually really important that I understand it, and I will be practicing this regularly because I do have lower and thoracic problems.
Yeah.
David,
Well,
if we encounter blockages or tension that really needs to be released, I seem to remember just the advice to go slow, but you don't back up and sort of go up and down the lumbar area. You just keep
that,
going.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Although you're right, you can slow down. You can even pause and dissolve if you are
Okay. Okay.
effective at dissolving.
Okay.
Um, so, but you're absolutely right. You do not want to go up and down. You're going to just go in one direction.
Right.
Um, and it's really important to, as you approach each group or individual vertebra, whichever you're working on, um, that you really try to feel what's happening there, and that you really allow as much as possible to release before you start to move.
Hmm.
So it really, particularly if you have back problems, um, it's important to think about it as a two-step process. It's not just that you're going down and you're coming up. It's feel and release, and then allow it to open, and feel and release, and allow it to open. Um, so you're not just bending and straightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Is there a limit to the amount of time you would suggest, at least initially, is that we, pause and release and then continue on? I mean, so that we don't overdo this. Approximate.
um, it is. I can't say I ever took quite this long, but Bruce said that spending a half an hour to an hour to do 3 repetitions would
Wow.
be perfectly understandable.
Oh, okay.
But you don't have to either. You may or may not have that kind of time.
Right.
Um, so you do the best you can do. But I think one of the things is to recognize that you're trying to develop very clear awareness of what's happening in your spine on both the posterior and the anterior sides. And that requires that you really learn to extend your mind through your body and really feel precisely what's going on. And you're not going to, at least when you first begin, you don't have that right away. It's it's like everything else that we work on. You have to develop it through practice.
Okay.
Um, and I really recommend that you read this chapter I'm going to send you,
Okay.
because there's a lot of good information there, even more than I'm verbally giving you. Some other thoughts. And there's also, he talks and shows some drawings about doing this seated. It is possible also to do it seated, and I've done it seated. Um, it's not as effective as doing it standing, but it is effective. So
But would doing it seated be any more, that way of doing it, would it be better for the thoracic or better for the lower back, or about the same for all of it?
I don't, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Okay.
Although if doing it standing um, causes you more pain, you might need to start with doing it seated.
Okay.
Um, and particularly, I mean, since you say you have developing back problems,
Yeah.
um, it
That's
is.
why I'm asking so many questions. I want to be sure not to make them worse in any way at any time.
Oh, of course, and no, that's fine. You know, I like questions, Jeff. It's okay. Um, I think as with anything that we do, it's important to stay aware of how your body feels. And if you're doing something that makes your body feel worse, then that's wrong.
Right.
That's really kind of just a basic um,
Don't overdo it.
rule. Don't overdo it. You do it smaller. You do it more quickly if you need to, or do it more slowly if you need to. You have to kind of find what works.
Right.
Um, if you are in pain, then you don't want to take um, half an hour to do a single spine stretch because that's going to be too much. Um, so you find what is appropriate for your condition at the moment you're in.
Right.
Um,
I will take all this information and I'll keep it in mind as I do it each day, and you know
yeah.
I'll work it out.
Um, the other thing, don't hesitate to call, write,
Okay.
message, whatever.
Right.
You know, I may take a little bit to get back to you, but usually I'm if I'm not in class, I can get back to you pretty quickly. So
Okay.
um, I'm always there to ask questions.
Okay.
Um, when I began using this when I was in a lot of pain, I didn't take half an hour to do a spine stretch
Right.
because it would have been um, very uncomfortable to say the least. So, um, but it's also important not to rush it and to try to really feel what's going on
Right.
because that's how it's going to help you.
Yeah. 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 So my goal now versus 10 years ago is for it to actually help. Now, 10
Yeah.
years ago, it was good as a warm-up exercise. Now it's um, a, a quality of life exercise for me, really. So,
It is. It is. So, any other questions at the moment?
nope.
Okay. I don't, um, any 8 gates questions? How's the breathing into the organs? And 3 dantians.
I can't say that I'm feeling the organs yet, still, to be honest. You know, I'm
Okay.
trying, but not really feeling any difference yet.
Yep. So, um, if you have any question about where really accurately where an organ is in your body. Um, I would just suggest you take a moment on the internet because it'll take you about 30 seconds to have 500 pictures. uh, so sometimes that's a good thing, just so that initially you can visualize. Well, that's not obviously the way we want to end up doing this. Sometimes it helps initially to be able to say, well, I know where that is. I can see in my mind that that's where I want to be. Um, so that may be a help.
Mm.
Um, and to recognize that as you're doing this, that the organ is moving, it's expanding and contracting. Um, so where the liver is easier to feel because it's a big organ and there's more movement, the spleen is very difficult to feel because it's small and there is movement, but there's not a lot. So the realities, certainly a thing to be aware of too. Um, so um, I realize I have no idea where we are in the form.
Mm.
How far did we go last time? Anybody remember?
Um,
We I know we did wave hands.
Oh yes, we're beyond that.
Yeah.
I think we've come around and kicked with heel again. Right, Bill? Am I thinking that? Am I thinking correctly?
Uh,
We did this and turn around, and
Yep.
I think we got to that, didn't we? Or no?
Yep. Could be.
yeah.
I'll take it. So why don't you flow up to that point and then we'll look at a little bit of what's happening after that. Good. So, good. I was just going to say, Bill, maybe you need to go to Savannah more often. That it was a definite improvement over the last time I saw you.
Okay.
Um,
I haven't looked at flights this morning, but
that was very good. Um, and Jeff, I like the your wave hands expanding and contracting and keeping the roundness going. That looked good. So, um, what am I doing? That's not what I want. So after you do that kick, you go into a single whip. And I suppose maybe a little bit of the difficulty there is that after you do the kick, you want to come back and twist in, and so that you can then twist and extend out into that single whip. So there has to be another bending and extending, twisting in and out, lengthening in and out between the kick and, of course, the single whip. And then you're twisting and bending in here and then out as you go through that movement. And then you're coming back in and out, out. Really pretty obvious. And then you're coming back in and out and in. And this part, of course, you already know. Out, in, out. Any questions up to there? That's actually a pretty clear section, I think.
yeah.
Nothing for you, Jeff?
Can you turn about 90 degrees to your left and just do it from, do that last part after, the last part so that I could see you as you come towards me with your hands on the last posture you just did?
Oh, okay. You mean after the punch down?
Yeah. But I wanted you to do it at an angle such that when you finish that last bit that you just did, that you're actually facing me instead of facing off to the side.
Yeah, but this I'm gonna I'm turning completely around so that I come back to face.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's good. From there. From there is what I wanted to see. So that's good.
Okay. So you've done the punch down
Right.
and you're beginning to turn as you come up, stepping around, hiding the fist, turning. It changes to a blade, step and chop,
Okay.
and then twisting in Boom, boom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
that was better. That was, yeah, that was better.
that answer your question or
I think so, yeah. I was a little unclear as far as when you come around, boom, and then in and then out again. That was always a little fuzzy for me.
it's very often the out, if you will, um, is related to the step, if there is one.
Okay.
Um, so um,
I
this
need to
has
excuse
been
myself for a minute, David. Yeah,
what?
I need to excuse myself for a minute.
Okay. Bending in and it's as that step which is going with the change of the arm. This is the beginning of the extension and twisting out.
Okay. And since you're facing me, just do it one more time from that point on.
From this point,
Yes. Yeah, from that point.
sure. So actually, from this point, I'm have a very slight turn to the right, which rounds that corner
Yeah.
and begins to draw in. And then you're going forward, step, and that's the beginning of the out. And then in, out.
Right. Okay. All right. That was better. That helps me understand it better.
Yeah. Was that enough? Did that?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting to see it straight on was helpful.
Oh, yeah.
That was good.
Often is the case.
Yes.
Um, did you have any questions, Bill? Or is he not back?
He's still excused.
Oh, okay.
Not back yet.
Jeff, why don't you flow through that section then and let me
Okay. So let's see.
out. Um, that was pretty good. I think the thing I would say is I feel like the twisting and bending in is not always really clear.
Yeah, it's true.
The out is pretty clear. You know where you're
Right.
going to strike.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
that's a good observation, actually, now that you say that. I didn't really realize it, but it is true.
yeah, so the twisting and bending in is preparing to be able to do the other.
Right.
So it's equally important, even though we often sort of
Right.
don't give the yin the attention we should.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I think it's all of us at one point or another.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Um, Did Bill have a problem or was he just?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
Yep.
Oh, oh, sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to try this, Bill?
Okay.
This section since
From where?
from that kick.
From the kick. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it wasn't bad. When here, let me. I, I, of course, completely understand about the balance into that kick can be.
Yeah, that was bad.
Um, but think about the fact that when you come back, this is all twisting in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you're going to twist out. So there is a rotation and turn, even though you're not trying to turn all the way in the direction of that left foot, but there is a turn there.
Yeah.
And, actually, this is kind of related. If you heard my comment to Jeff a minute ago, to think about there is a twisting in that then goes into the twisting out.
Yeah.
And there's a twisting in here. So that things have come in so they can go out.
Yeah.
I think being really clear about the in and out, as I was saying to Jeff, um, and I'm saying this from personal experience, we tend to not focus as much on the yin as the yang, um, and it's really equally important. So I think that's as far as we're going to get today.
Okay.
My intention is that at least for a little while, if I can, oh, my problem is I'm on the wrong camera. Okay. We'll maybe do a spine stretch at the beginning of class just to work on that a bit.
Yep.
So I'll maybe guide you through next time. But if you practice in between, then that may be a little more effective.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, write them down or call me or whatever.
Okay.
Try not to lose them. I don't know how many times people come to class and say, something was fun, but I can't remember what that was.
Right.
So,
That happens to me when I go from room to room.
well, there is a certain amount of that, yes. So, any last minute questions here?
Nope.
Okay, I'll send those notes out to you and have a good week of playing with the spine stretch, and we will continue on next week.
Okay.
Great.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All
Yep.
right.
Good
You
week,
guys have a
everyone.
great week. We'll see you next
Yeah,
week.
you too.
Okay.